Well, hello. Back from our holiday. You can see I'm a little bit sun-kissed thanks to Thailand and Athens. Um, it it was good. Had a lot of different experiences. Northern Ireland, England, lots of different parts of England. I can't go through them all because I have family spread over quite a varied space, and I still haven't even met all of my family on my dad's side. So there's still a few more to meet. Um, and then we threw in a couple of European cities, Stockholm and Athens. We stayed in Athens the longest, and yeah, we were able to, where we stayed, we were able to walk everywhere, so that was probably a good choice. And yeah, and my luggage got lost in transit at Stockholm, but we were only 5 minutes from the airport, so we managed to get that back fairly quickly. And after that, it wasn't lost again. Um, so let's talk about our flights and our way home, which some of you may have already seen on TikTok or whatever. So we flew a lot of them budget airlines, because we don't have a lot of money, and I like to do shopping, so we kind of balance the two. So we flew on Qatar, we flew on Emirates, we flew on Lufthansa. They were the ones that lost my luggage. We flew on Logan Air, which, if you're going from Derry Airport to somewhere else, that's who you might fly with, and probably one of the best budget airlines we actually flew on, to be fair. We flew on EasyJet, way better than our Jetstar, so don't confuse the two, because we flew on them a couple of times over the years, and I much prefer EasyJet to Jetstar. We flew on Aegean Air, which was a connection flight from Lufthansa, and we flew on Pegasus. I'm going to go into that a bit more detail. One of the positive things that Lufthansa give you, even on a 2-hour flight, is a bottle of water, and you get a chocolate. So that, they may have some other issues, but they do give you that. But the hotel kind of said if you're going to lose your luggage, it's going to be with Lufthansa, so might not fly with them again. All the other airlines I'd be happy to fly on again. No issues with any of the others, except for Pegasus. We got to our destination fine. They're a budget Turkish airline. So with all of the other airlines, I got like a 3-day to 2-day notice, check in, all the instructions. Got the same with Pegasus, except when you go to check in, it's a little bit trickier because you either have to select English or you kind of have to know what you're doing. So the first one I got, the first flight I did the check-in, no problem. Then we got to the airport and she couldn't find us for the connection flight because we paid for extra leg room and extra baggage. So my husband challenged that, because she said we have to get our bags at Istanbul, and I'm like, I'm not going to have enough time. I showed her the flight sequence, which showed that it was a connecting flight. She still disagreed with me. And then I showed her, because I screenshot a lot of things, so I screenshotted the email that I received in, I'm guessing it was Turkish or Greek, and I showed her that, and then she looked up something else. She still said she couldn't find us, but we weren't leaving. We were, adamant that this was a connecting flight and our bags were going to Stansted. And then another colleague saw that we were getting quite upset, came in, clicked a couple of buttons on her computer, and she found us and basically said, we couldn't find you because you didn't check in, so blamed us. So, when you work in an international area and you're dealing with lots of different people that speak lots of different languages, never blame the customer. That's probably one of the areas you should never blame the customer, because I get an email in another language and I don't know what to do next. So probably wouldn't fly with them again either, just because of the language barrier, and not just via the email, but with the actual stuff. And then we got to Thailand perfectly okay from the UK, which was Emirates. We actually already paid for extra luggage on our fares, so that was good because my husband was getting a bit concerned. And then, so that was all good, although they did weigh our hand luggage, so just be aware that some airlines do weigh your hand or your cabin luggage. and the accepted is, if they say 7 kilos, they may accept 8 kilos. So just be aware of that. So we had to do a bit of fiddling around and take jackets out of our hand luggage and just to make it lighter, which worked. And then we were fine. Made it to Phuket, fine. We had believe we had a connection flight again with Emirates, but we stopped in Dubai, I believe. We had a lot of connecting flights, so we're a bit over it. So that was 6 hours from Gatwick, and then another 6 hours from Dubai, which made the flight a little bit more bearable. I met up with some family in Thailand, which was lovely. As I said, got sun-kissed, sit on the beach, get your feet massaged, get your shoulders massaged. There's nothing like it. Bali do the same. It's like relaxing almost in its true form. Like, you can go to a shop if you want to, but I prefer to get it done at the beach because I'm looking at the ocean, getting all of that in, and their hygiene is not an issue because they use pretty much akin to methylated spirits, and they wash their hands. They've got everything there to keep themselves clean and you clean. And I've had it done multiple times in Indonesia and Thailand, and I've never had an infection from it, so I don't have an issue. And then it comes to coming home. So, no email from Qantas, no email from Jetstar about checking in online. Kept looking. This is like 3 days out of our flight. Emailed my sibling who works in a management, almost executive level at one of the ticketing agencies, so he gets the back end. He couldn't even find the flight. He found the first flight that we could find with different flight number than what we had, but he couldn't find the second flight. So I was starting to get a bit worried. And then we got on our flight at in Phuket, and it was a Jetstar flight. Fortunately, they do have to abide by the same international standards as Qantas, so our luggage wasn't an issue. I think they did weigh some hand luggage, but they didn't weigh ours because we had an issue because our bags weren't going all the way to Melbourne. We had to pick them up in Singapore, and we were like, why? And they're like, because you're not on a partnered flight, because our Qantas flight got cancelled. We did get an email earlier the day of our flight saying that the Qantas flight was cancelled. So they put us on a flight without telling us. They didn't email us, they didn't call us, they didn't text us. So it was only when we got to check in at Phuket that they told us what flight we were on, and didn't even give us a flight number, just told us Singapore Airlines and gave us a time. I said, we're not going to make that flight, especially if we have to get our bags out. And they just put their arms up in the air and said they're not passing our bags through, and that's that. So I rang Qantas, obviously very upset. And I said to the lady, even though I did swear and I was angry, but I didn't swear at her and I wasn't angry at her, and I made that very clear. I'm not upset with you, I'm upset with Qantas. This is the situation. What if we don't make that flight? What's going to happen? And then in the end, I hung up because I wasn't getting anywhere. Then she called back, and then she said, we can call back if we miss that flight and they'll put us on another flight. So I had a bit of confidence that they were going to do the right thing. So this is where it gets interesting. So we land in Singapore. Have you ever been to Singapore airport? Oh my word. You have to get a visa, even if you're not leaving the airport. So that was one. That was like 15 minutes. Then we got told to go to the wrong area because of the language barrier. Then we had to get a bus. Then we had to get a train. And then by the time we got to the Singapore Airlines counter, that flight had closed that we were booked on. So I got the times mixed up, but the flight was still closed, even the one that we were booked on. And so I rang back Qantas because she said to ring back if we missed a flight. And there was another flight at 00:25, so just after midnight. So I rang back and I said, can we be put on that flight? There's no seats available. And I'm like, I just shook my head because I knew that wasn't the case. I don't know why I knew, I just knew. So we went to the desk, and unfortunately the Singapore airline desk confirmed that there was no seats available, but I still wasn't convinced that that was the case. But then Qantas, and all the Qantas person kept saying is refund. Would you like a refund? There's a flight tomorrow night at 7:40. I said, what are we going to do in the meantime? What are we going to do for accommodation? No answer. Just refund. So if they had have given me a solution, oh, we'll put you up for the night, we'll put you in a taxi, we'll cover all of these costs like they're supposed to, then, you know, it would have been fine. But no, none of that was communicated. Sorry, I'm just getting food delivery. Just let him know that I'm here. So no, none of that was discussed. Not at all. None of that was discussed. So then my husband, so I rang Qantas back. So we weren't given an option for accommodation. We weren't given an option for a taxi. None of that. So I called Qantas again. And this time, they couldn't find me. And I'm like, everyone else has found me with the information that I'm giving you, exact information I'm giving you. And she's like, we can't find you. So while this was happening, and because the other lady just kept saying refund, I ended up just disconnecting the call. My husband went back to the Singapore airline desk, and then another guy said, yes, we've got plenty of seats. So I was kind of like bit over it by now, because I asked the Qantas lady, have you looked at every flight? Have you looked at every class? Have you actually looked to see that there's no flights? Because even in their charter, they have to get you home. And my sibling even said it's their responsibility to get us home if that's the flight that we're booked on. She didn't look. She just went straight. So in the charter is refund, but that shouldn't be the first option. The first option should be get you home. Then the second option is, if it's not in the same day, get you accommodation. If that's not an option, then, and they also have to put you on a flight that's reasonable to you. So if it's not reasonable to you, then you can actually refuse it. So, anyway, so he found several seats. So I rang, in the middle of this conversation at Qantas, and she couldn't find me. And I was like getting, again, really stressed out. So in the end, Qantas did not help us get home. So we went to the Singapore desk to buy tickets, because you can buy tickets. And there was another family that was also stranded. They were going to Adelaide, and they were stranded as well. And we ended up getting our own tickets home. And yeah, so we are home, but don't fly Qantas, because they don't care about you. They didn't give us a reason why the flight was cancelled. Webjet had our flight confirmed, so I have emailed Webjet as well. And I have emailed Singapore Airlines, because their staff did originally say that there was no seats when I had Qantas on the phone, because if they had have said there was seats, then Qantas would have booked us on that flight. So there's a few people involved. And I have sent Qantas an invoice, not just for the refund of the pittance airfares that we originally paid, but also for the airfares that we paid out of pocket, because they didn't help, and also a financial impeachment fine for our inconvenience, which I already notified them that I was going to do, which you have every right to do. If something is going to cause you inconvenience and stress, you have every right to, as any company, to put a penalty fine in place, as long as you make it clear that that's what you're going to do. And I haven't had a rejection of that, so tacit acceptance is acceptance. Tacit response is acceptance. So I did an essay last night in a letter to Qantas detailing pretty much everything of that. Literally, they were happy to keep us abandoned in Singapore with no money, no accommodation, and what are we going to do in an airport? And also, Singapore is very expensive, and we didn't really have the money to stay in Singapore or even at the airport, because when we paid for our flight and we got it converted in Australian dollars, it was a little bit more than what we expected to pay. So don't fly Qantas. And I don't really care what happens to them anymore. Once upon a time it was our choice, and to go on Qantas, and we were very proud that they were part of the Australian brand, and not anymore. And my sibling has all of this information, and as I said, he works for the major ticketing company, so he will pass this information on to people that he knows, and he'll probably also be telling him, if you go in Australia, don't fly Qantas. So it's not good. It's not good. So I've emailed the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, and the Chief Financial Officer. So we'll see what happens, and I'll give you an update. And sorry, this video is a bit more 10 minutes, but I think it's worth watching this one. All right, have a good day. Have a good week. Bye.